Hi, in this video I want to show you a couple of features in the Schoology gradebook for entering scores directly in the gradebook. So I have created some assignments here. I have one called Scale, one called Rubric, and one called Pass. For each of those assignments, I've set them up, set a due date, and so forth. And if these were digitally submitted assignments in Schoology, I'd need to click on the assignment name and go in and look at the student's submitted work. But let's say these are assignments where I've graded them either through classroom observation or something they've done on paper and handed in. So this first one called Scale, I've set up this assignment using a grading scale. So if I'm ready to put in those scores, I just come down here, I click on the cell for the student, and it'll bring up the scale with the equivalent percentages. I have two ways I can enter the scores. I can either just type the score in. So if this student got 8 out of 10, I can just enter 8 there. And then by default, it'll display to the student whatever the descriptor is that goes along with 8 out of 10 or 80%. So probably say mostly complete. Or I can click on the cell and then just select the descriptor right in the gradebook. So if I go down the line here, right, I can say, all right, here's what I want for each student, and just click on it. The second one is called Rubric. And for this assignment, again, I've set it up with a due date and everything, but I've attached a rubric for scoring. So when I go into the gradebook, there will be a little icon there with 4 squares. I can click on that icon and then just click on the level of the rubric that I want to assign that score. So you can see here the student got 4 out of 4. So I do that, hit save, and go to the next one. Let's say it's 3, hit save. If I want with the rubric, I can select a box or boxes, depending how you have it set up. I can manually change the score as well. So if this student, I want to give them 3.5, I can just type that in and it will be there. So this is an easy way to use rubrics for scoring things directly in the gradebook, depending on what kind of assignment you're looking at. There are also a couple of exception codes that you can access with scoring in the gradebook. So for each cell, there's a little flag in the lower left. When I click on that, it gives me 3 options, 3 exceptions. One is excused, incomplete, and then missing. So excused is going to be like no count in Skyward. If I click on excused, it's going to say excused to the student. There's no grade there, and it'll take it off their overdue or to-do list that they have in Schoology that it generates. If I go into those codes again, I can also click incomplete. Incomplete will also not assign a grade to the student, but it will have the item pop up then on their overdue list as something that needs to be done. And when they look at their grade book, it will say incomplete. Lastly, I can check missing. And if I check missing, that's going to automatically put a 0 in the grade book and take that item off of their overdue list, because it considers the item graded at that point. And depending on your individual policies, you'd have to clarify for students whether that's work that they can still do or not. And there's also a little comment box in each grading cell. So if you wanted to attach some kind of comment, like if this assignment was excused because the student was sick, I can put that there and check display to student if I want them to see that comment. If I have some feedback to go along with any of those scores, I can say, nice job or whatever, hopefully some kind of meaningful feedback. And then again, it will display that to students. So if I have made a comment, you'll see the little icon pops up that shows there's a comment attached to that score along with the exception code if I've chosen that and the score itself. Lastly, there's the 3 little dots for each assignment. And if I click on those, it gives me some options. I can mark all the empty cells in a certain way. So if I wanted to mark all of the assignments that weren't submitted as incomplete, I can do that right there, and it'll put an incomplete on every assignment that doesn't have a score. Or I can also set all grades. So if I just want to set all the grades to 1 score, let's say this is something we did in class and I just want to check off that all the students completed it, right? I can enter that in, hit confirm, and it turns all of the scores to 10 out of 10 in this case. Okay, so those are some of the features you can use if you're using grading scales or rubrics within the gradebook, the exception codes and the comments as well, and then some of these features for bulk entering grades if that's appropriate for your assignment. Let me know if you need any more help. Thanks.